Hello there! It's Friday, which means it's time once again for the best movie podcast ever. The only movie podcast to offer objective, hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name, Konrad, and with me as always, when there is no more room left in hell, the dead shall walk the earth, it's Anthony James.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night.
There it is.
Oh, God.
We're coming in hot this week.
All about the dead this week. It reminded me of the little spell from the Pixar film Onward there.
Yes.
One day to walk the earth. I thought that's what you were going to go into, but
no. This is the dad. I'm ashamed to say I can't remember the actor's name now, but the dad from Kenan and Kel was both.
Which dad? Who's dad in Kenan and Kel?
Kenan's dad, the bald guy.
The only one you see. Do you ever see Kel's dad?
No, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether Kel's parents are a feature in Kenan and Kel. To be honest, he doesn't seem to have been well brought up, based on all the hijinks he gets into.
I'm surprised he's still got teeth. How much orange soda he drinks.
Yeah.
But what do you call it? There was a huge rumor for like 10 years or something after that show went off. It's like Kel's dead. Kel's dead.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember
yeah, that did the rounds, and then he'd just pop up like 10 years later and be like, no, just went and did other things.
It reminds me, like when I went to a music festival called Oxygen in near Dublin. There was when you're at a music festival over the weekend, there's always like little rumors that go around. People start them, and the rumor that went around the music festival that I was at for the 3 days was and this is like just before everyone had smartphones too.
Yeah.
So like no one could just look it up.
Yeah.
But the rumor was that the British presenters Ant and Dec were dead.
That's a very specific joke for like our British listeners there. I don't think Ant and Dec are an international commodity of any value. I had a big one. I can't remember where I was. I think it was at Reading Festival, and a rumor went around that Eminem had died. Just complete nonsense.
Can you imagine being the person who started? Like, what are they thinking?
Yeah. Eventually it makes its way back to you and you just sit there with like a satisfied look on your face like, excellent, everything's going according to plan. We're not here to talk about celebrity deaths this week, although there may be some deaths involved in one of the films that we're talking about, or in fact both of the films that we're going to talk about later, because there's violence in all movies, really, these days. This is a movie diary where we talk about all the things that we have seen since the last time we did one of these. If you're new to the show, please consider subscribing to us. We are the Culture Cave on YouTube, or the best movie podcast ever on podcasting apps, and get involved in the comments. But without further ado, I say let's talk about some movies.
Let's do it.
Movies. There's been lots of news this week. Actually, that's not true. There's been a little bit of exciting news this week. The first thing that I wanted to fire across your bow, so to speak, was the fact that we talked about Knives Out's sequel last week, and the fact that it had added a bunch of people to its cast, as if in response to that. I believe it's the Hollywood Reporter announced that Kate Hudson has also joined that cast now. So that makes it.
That's another one.
Dave Bautista, Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Janelle Monáe. I'm missing someone. It's ridiculous. Is Ric Flair going to be in this movie? Who have we got next?
I just imagine, what do you call him? DJ Khaled just sitting there going,
oh, sure.
One.
DJ Khaled will be in it. Yeah, Oh, yeah. Like you could use that meme to describe this. He might be in it himself. He's not up to much.
Like, how many parts can there be in a film? I haven't said that. There was a lot in the other one, so let's look.
Yeah, I suppose
the more there is, the more chance of like the Cluedo thing you got going on.
Yeah, because you need the kind of Pink Panther style opening of a bunch of people getting up to no good in a house or hotel or whatever, and then them all to be played by very sort of charismatic actors. So I guess most of these people are going to be semi-stars in an ensemble cast.
I think charismatic is it's maybe a bit over the top in terms of describing Kate Hudson, but we'll go with it.
Listen, you find me a better star of Failure to Launch, all right? Like
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is where it's at. Like,
I think were both of those her and Matthew McConaughey. I think.
Possibly. 10 things. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was Matthew McConaughey. Yes. I think was the other one. I haven't seen the other one.
I think I've got in my head an image of Kate Hudson, like on the front cover of the DVD or the poster or whatever, Kate Hudson standing up straight, Matthew McConaughey kind of like like leaning in like that.
No,
like,
that's How to Lose a Guy in
is
10
that
Days.
okay? So that's what I'm thinking of when I think of Failure to Launch. I mean, their careers,
Classic film.
I feel like their careers kind of dovetailed early on when they were making nothing but awful rom-coms, and then Matthew McConaughey somehow, I believe it started with Reign of Fire, where certainly I noticed him after that. I was like, this Matthew McConaughey guy is pretty cool. Actually, he has a big axe in that movie. I'm all right with that. He's not just this awful rom-com actor. Whereas Kate Hudson, I don't know if I've seen her in anything.
I can't remember what I've seen Kate Hudson in the last 10 years, to be honest with you. But Matthew McConaughey, for me, the one that made me start thinking about him as a top actor was Mud. I think he took a bit of a gamble going for sort of like a low-budget, independent-y type thing and with Mud. And then it made him be seen in a more serious light, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and I think he I think he
While it lasted.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's done a good job of like kind of, I don't want to say legitimizing his career because Kate Hudson's had a perfectly legitimate career, but you know, of broadening his horizons beyond the rom-coms that he kind of made a lot of in that early 2000s period. I don't know what Kate Hudson's been up to. She's Goldie Hawn's daughter, I think. So maybe
she is. Yeah,
hanging out with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell at home,
just chilling.
Imagine that household: Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn as the parents that your girlfriend brings you home to. It's like that man was.
I can't imagine anything other than Captain Ron. What I think the old family film. He's like a pirate. He's not really a pirate, but he owns a boat and takes the Martin Short's family out for a holiday on the seas.
Yeah,
great film.
Yeah, I've never seen that, nor have I seen Overboard, but they're both kind of like Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn vehicles, as I understand it.
Overboard is fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Okay, well, I should add that to the list. I like Kurt Russell. I should watch that. Speaking now, how am I going to segue into this next point from where we were just then?
Segue. Kurt
Russell hasn't made any films where he wields a sword, I don't think. Which is a shame because that would work quite well as a segue into this next news story, which is actually something I'm a bit more excited about. Not to say I'm not excited about Knives Out 2, but we discussed it last week, which is to say that Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick's 1, 2, and 3, and also I think he's directing the fourth one whenever that actually finishes shooting, has basically been, well, he has been signed on as the director for a Highlander reboot for some time now, and there were rumours that were kind of pretty much confirmed over the last week. Henry Cavill will be taking on the lead role of, I can't remember his name now, something McLeod.
Kevin?
Sure, Kevin McLeod. Previously played by Christopher Lambert, of course. So Henry Cavill using his long hair and sword skills from that Witcher series on the Netflix to good use here, hopefully.
Yeah, that sounds interesting to me. Henry Cavill, he would. I'd imagine he'd have to put a Scottish accent on.
I mean, the Highlander series does not have a great track record of representing its people with accents well. So in that original movie, Christopher Lambert just plays a Scottish guy with Connor MacLeod.
Connor MacLeod,
yeah. Plays that Connor MacLeod. Like, so he's a Highlander. He starts off in, I don't know, Braveheart times. What's that, like the 12th century or something?
Yeah, Braveheart times.
He starts off then, doesn't have a Scottish accent then, doesn't keep it for the rest of the movie, or doesn't develop one for the rest of the movie. He's just kind of like vaguely. It's not even an American accent. It's just his weird own brand of accent. And then you have Sean Connery playing the half Egyptian, half Spanish character doing what Sean Connery does, which is not put on an accent at all. So in many ways, I feel like Henry Cavill would be being more faithful to the original if he just attempted a bizarre accent for this that wasn't Scottish in any way.
All right, okay, fair enough. Well, Henry Cavill has been good at accents in the past, so
yeah.
Even if he wanted to, I think I'd be happy enough with him to do that. But yeah, that's really interesting. I'm a big fan of Henry Cavill, especially in The Witcher, as you mentioned. I really, really liked him in The Witcher. I thought he was great. I haven't seen Highlander, but is there any physicality to the role? Because in terms of his,
yes. I mean, you have to cut someone's head off to kill them if they're a Highlander, and there's a lot of head cutting. Okay,
well then that's going to be great because his action scenes and his fighting scenes with swords in The Witcher were fantastically done. So
yeah, and I think if you combine like Chad Stahelski's eye for shooting an action scene, because he was a stuntman on The Matrix originally, so he and he kind of moved into that like Hong Kong cinema inspired way of shooting, where it's basically just like these really wide shots, allowing the fight choreography to speak for itself. Combine that with the work that Henry Cavill did in The Witcher. At the very least, the fight scenes in this are going to be awesome. No word on whether we're getting Clancy Brown back. I hope we are, but you never know. Like with these reboots, they may distance themselves from it. But yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah.
So Highlander coming back to a cinema near you sometime in the next few years. Keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
Yes, exciting stuff. But I think that's going to shift us quite naturally from our news section.
That was me keeping an eye out.
Yeah, exactly. Just I'll check back in every 6 months or so just to make sure everyone's still paying attention. And if you're not, you're in trouble. That's going to shift us quite naturally to an exciting new. I don't know when to stop calling this a new section of the show. We've done it twice now.
It's always new every week because it's a new.
That's true.
It's sort of 25 years in the past. It's another week on. It's a new segment in that way.
Sure, we'll just call it new forever, and it'll become a beloved
well,
running
it's about time travel, kind of. So it's kind of new forever.
That is true.
So it's the newest version.
Come with me through as we travel to the days of yesteryear in our exciting new segment. Back to the feature. I almost started singing then. I didn't do it. I was thinking about putting some vibrato on that, but I thought, you know what? I'm gonna be a little bit more reserved this week. I initially started off like this sort of part of the show by trying to do like a kind of very like kind of hyperbolic Americanized game show host, but I think I'm actually going to take a step back and be more like a kind of 70s British game show host, where it's just like, right, very well done. Or like,
yeah.
That's more.
You have a different type of game show host every.
Oh God, I haven't got. There's not that many to choose from, to be honest. That would get bored, like tired very quickly. But here we go. It would. Yeah, it would. So let's be grateful that I've chosen not to do that.
You do Bruce Forsyth one week.
I don't know if that's one of those accents where I've never tried it, and I fear what would happen if I did. I'm certainly not going to try it for the first time while recording a podcast because it would just
nice
be like...
to meet you. To meet you, nice.
Yeah.
Just want to say that.
So for those of you who haven't caught this before, this is the exciting game show segment of our podcast where I select a film from 25 years ago today, as close to today's date as possible. Sometimes it doesn't perfectly work out. Anthony will hear 5 clues and have 5 opportunities to guess the movie. Each clue he hears lowers his score, and I encourage you all to play along at home, of course. But without further ado, Anthony, are you ready for Back to the Feature?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. I'll be interested to see how quickly you get this one this week. Okay. First clue. Clue the first.
That makes me think that it's going to be easier than the last 2 weeks, even though last week was actually pretty easy when I listened back, but still.
Well, you know, we've talked about this before. It's a crucible of pressure. You know, this is a pressure cooker. This, you know, anyone can answer these questions in the cold light of day, but when you're sitting in that chair with the spotlights on, it's a whole different kettle of fish.
I know. I'm feeling it.
Clue the first. The director of this movie, Rob Cohen, began his career making a handful of episodes for the Miami Vice TV series in the 80s.
I've heard the name Rob Cohen.
You have.
I don't know why. I'm thinking of comedy this week. Happy Gilmore.
It's not Happy Gilmore. I think that's the right year. I think that is the right year.
That's why I guessed Happy Gilmore. Yeah. I thought around 96 was when it was made.
Not Happy Gilmore, but a good guess. Second clue. This Universal Pictures movie marked the 3rd time in a year that they would produce or help produce a movie about an animal, the other 2 being Babe and Flipper.
Babe and Flipper. Rob Cohen. It couldn't be, could it? Free Willy 2?
It's not Free Willy 2. That's a solid guess, though. A solid guess based on the information that you've been given.
It wasn't Free Willy, I knew that.
No, I don't...
An animal film.
I can't speak to the director of Free Willy 2.
Babe and Flipper. Okay.
Okay.
I like Babe.
I can't remember Flipper at all, to be honest.
Flipper, is that about the
dolphin.
Oh!
It's about a dolphin.
Okay, I have a question. You don't have to answer. No, I'll wait to see what you say in the next clue.
Okay. So, clue the third. This movie would spawn 2 sequels, subtitled A New Beginning and The Sorcerer's Curse, respectively.
The Sorcerer's Curse?
Yep.
And it's an animal movie?
Yep.
What? Okay. I do have a guess. It's not what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I was going to say.
Go on.
What I was going to guess was Andre. It's not that.
Andre?
Andre, yeah. It's with, what do you call him? Frodo Baggins. What's his name? Elijah Wood. Yeah, he's like, as like a teenager, he played, a couple of years before Deep Impact, he had like a seal called Andre in a film.
Oh, I very vaguely remember that movie coming out.
Yeah.
I never saw that. But a great shout, nonetheless. But yeah, we're only accepting one answer per round.
Yeah, my guess is... Oh, okay, so is that my answer?
No, that's fine. Like, we'll discount.
Yeah. I knew... Well, when the Sorcerer came into it, I knew it probably wasn't.
Yeah, unless that series of... Well, one, I'd be very surprised if Andre got a sequel. And two, if this movie about a seal had a sequel subtitled The Sorcerer's Curse, the narrative has taken a shift that was unexpected there.
Okay. Now, when you say an animal movie, let's just clarify something. You are talking about the genre of an animal movie. Like, you're not throwing King Kong at me or something here, are you? Like, you're not throwing, like, Planet of the Apes. That's not an animal movie. You don't have to answer that if it's too leading, but, I mean, you know what the question I'm asking you is. Like.
I will say... how am I going to answer this without giving too much away?
When I think animal movie, I think Andre, Flipper, Free Willy, Babe... You know, those type of films.
So, okay, in the context, I think you are correct.
Charlotte's Web.
In the context of this quiz, I use the phrase animal movie to describe a movie in which an animal is a main character.
Okay. Because I was also thinking Beethoven, like you know the type of film I'm talking about.
Yeah. Where the animal is the show, like where you're there for the talking dog.
Right. Okay. Well, this guess is going to be wrong because it's what I was going to say, but it's definitely wrong. But I'll just say Homeward Bound, just to.
Again, you're knocking on the door, I think, here to a certain extent, but it is not Homeward Bound. I think Homeward Bound was a little bit earlier than this as well. I vaguely remember that being in the 80s.
Yeah.
Although there were definitely Homeward Bound sequels in the 90s.
Well, Michael J. Fox was one of the main roles, so probably was the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the Golden Retriever, I think.
No, he was the I don't even. He was like the mutt called Patch. No, sorry, called Chance. He had a patch on his eye.
You're right.
The Golden Retriever was called Shadow.
Is that James Stewart or something?
I can't remember who did his voice actually, but he's. I remember at the end, his owner Peter thought that he wasn't going to make it back because he's just too old.
Yeah.
And then he starts running over the hill.
Yeah.
I'm coming, Peter, and I love you.
I always get him mixed up with the cat in Fievel Goes West: An American Tale, which was voiced by James. The old dog in Fievel Goes West: An American Tale, which was voiced by James Stewart.
I actually remember that. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Fourth clue. I think you're going to get it on this one. There might be some contention after this. We'll see, because I may have misled you with one of those clues. Let's see. Clue the fourth. Liam Neeson was originally cast in the role of Bowen, which would eventually be played by Dennis Quaid.
Oh, I got it.
Go on, hit me with it.
Dragon Heart.
I'm going to lock that in. Let's just check on the computer.
Lock it.
It is Dragonheart. He's done it, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I think you're right in thinking. I think you didn't lead me astray. I think you're okay.
I was when I said animal. I wasn't sure if I should specify. I am including magical beasts.
yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I think it wouldn't be the same genre of like animal family film I'm talking about, but at the same time, an animal features in it pretty heavily. Yeah. Not an animal. You couldn't really call it an animal. It's a fantastical beast. But still, I got it.
You did. You got it. A score of 2. You're moving up.
Yeah.
You got 1 point, like 0 points the first week, 1 point the second, and 2 points now. In 2 weeks' time, You're going to be knocking on the door of full schools every single time at this at this rate.
I know. Well, I'm going to get 6 in one of them. I'm going to guess it before you even give me the clue.
Yeah.
Just based on memory of my childhood.
Yeah, just based on an encyclopedic knowledge of 1996.
I know Titanic's coming in the next 3 years.
The next 3 years. That narrows it down. Do you want to hear the final clue that you would have had you not known?
We've never got to do this before. Yes, I would.
Okay, so the final clue, had you not have guessed it, would have been Sean Connery went from playing King Arthur in First Knight the year prior to voicing the character of Draco in this movie, which also mentions Arthur by name.
Well, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I didn't get. I'm glad I didn't actually have to get that clue, because that is like a real give it to you clue.
Yeah. The moment I was like, I can't mention Sean Connery in these clues, because the moment that happens, you literally did it in answering it. Everyone's just immediately going to go Dragon Hat, and yeah. I wonder how it felt for Sean Connery to be able to do that. It's like Alec Guinness that had like a 40-year career in which he was like making these amazing movies, and the only movie anyone knows him for anymore is Dragonheart. I guess
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. Well done, Anthony. A solid performance there. I think we can all agree, both myself and for the audience listening at home, that you've done yourself proud there. So
I love how when I said Happy Gilmore, you said I wasn't a million miles away.
I don't know why I said that's that kind of like game show needless platitude that doesn't actually help matters at all.
I suppose like the only way I could bridge that gap is maybe saying like I've talked about both of those films on the podcast before.
Yeah, you had like that's why I thought I thought you'd get it, because we have discussed that on the podcast.
I've also seen the sequel, A New Beginning, but I didn't know that was a tagline or the subtitle. Francis from Malcolm in the Middle is in it. He is the main boy in it. So
that's a step down from Dennis Quaid.
Yes, there's also. Is it a step up from Malcolm in the Middle? No, it's probably a step down for him too, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Depends how long after Malcolm in the Middle, to be honest.
No, it was. I think it was during.
Oh, okay, yes, that is a step down.
Or even just before.
I was gonna, because when you see like Frankie Muniz turning up and stuff now, it's like, oh, Frankie, like what's happened? Where did it all go?
Agent Cody
wrong?
Banks was where it was at. Agent Cody Banks, that he should have made Agent. Or Big Fat Liar. Come on, Paul Giamatti. That was a good one.
I don't think I ever saw that, to be honest.
Oh,
Paul Giamatti. I was talking to someone about Paul Giamatti playing the Rhino the other day. He's made some bad movies. He gets it pretty fast. Anyway, let's talk about some movies that we've seen rather than reminiscing about Frankie Muniz's dog shit career. I say we start things off the only way that we really can, which is talking about this hot new property that everyone's excited about. Zack Snyder back in the director's chair for the first time in
seems like ages.
Well, yeah, first time in like 2 weeks since the Justice League came out.
Look out for this film being re-released in a couple of years. I'll tell you that. Well,
yeah, we'll come to that. Oh, if we're talking about Army of the Dead, 2021, it's on Netflix. It's starring Dave Bautista and a bunch of other people. Not really, like none of whom are particularly interesting, to be honest. Nora Alexander, Arnazeda, sorry, not Alexander, is probably the best of the character actors in this, and it's essentially telling the story of a zombie outbreak in Nevada that is kind of dealt with in the opening credit montage that also introduces us to our main characters, who are all kind of like, I don't know, like sort of Predator type, archetypes. Like this one's a safecracker, this one's an army man, this one's a mechanic.
This one's called Scott Ward. That's what Dave Bautista's name is. None of them are that interesting, to be brutally honest. And it's a mistrick, because when I think of so essentially the premise of this movie is there's a zombie outbreak in Nevada. It's like walled off with containers, but like kind of society recovers, but there is a kind of lingering sense that the government are using the zombie virus as a means to control like dissident voices. So like if someone is a political rival or something, it's implied that maybe they'll check their temperature and they'll send them off to like these internment camps just outside of the city of Las Vegas.
because people are so sort of gun shy about the virus potentially coming back that they ask no questions about these tests being done on them. And that is like kind of an interesting idea that the movie plays with for a little while, and then just kind of drops it almost immediately, which is
That's
really
good
frustrating.
though, because maybe I think that might have been dropped in an edit, Conrad. Because like me hearing that, I'm thinking to myself, really, like I'm sure this was written before the pandemic, but really, does like Zack Snyder and the people involved in this really want to be on the side of people saying at the minute that like making people wear a mask is like
the government's
Nazi
controlling us through
Germany,
vaccines and tests? Yeah, I that could easily be the case. I also think that when you're talking about like kind of minority and dissident voices being silenced by the government through like a fabricating the existence of symptoms for a disease, it's probably takes someone who's quite a good writer to do that, and quite a good director to kind of realize it. I don't think Zack Snyder is that director. So essentially this movie tells the story of this group of guys, or a group of like mercenaries who are hired by an incredibly shady businessman who is obviously lying to them and is obviously a villain, to go and rob one of the vaults in Las Vegas that I think contains a couple of $100 million, because even in this sort of post-zombie outbreak world, people still care about money, and if they perform this heist, they get to keep a lot of the money. They have to assemble a team. He sticks one of his own men in the team who is clearly going to betray them at some point throughout the movie, and they go off into this zombie-filled city. That's basically it. There are a couple of twists and turns along the way. There is there's some interesting stuff it gets into with the kind of like zombie ecology. So when going into this movie, I figured it was just going to be like, it's a zombie movie. It's going to be them moving through this place with like typical zombies, and maybe there'll be the sort of Dawn of the Dead remake style scary running zombies, or maybe there'll be the shambling zombies. But they actually pretty early on establish that there are lots of different kinds of zombies. So there are what they call the shamblers, which are the sort of traditional George Romero style zombies who are pretty brainless. But then you've got like, I don't know if you've ever seen. Did you see? Oh, what was it called? So the original movie is Omega Man, but there was a remake of it starring Will Smith called I Am Legend.
I saw that.
Yeah. So like that like kind of, they're not zombies in that. They're kind of almost vampires really, but there's like a kind of subset of zombies in this that are essentially that. They're like super fast, super strong, intelligent. They're like having babies with each other, and they're able to turn people to their side, and that is quite interesting. But again, like most things in this movie, it's pretty surface level and pretty throwaway. This is fine. It's fine. I didn't dislike it. I think it's over 2 hours long, and I think that's way too long for what it's doing, which is essentially Zack Snyder getting back to what he's good at, which is making kind of dumb action movies. All the characters are pretty one note, although some of them are pretty good one notes, I will say. My kind of watermark, or high watermark, I should say, for kind of one note characters being delivered really well is like the beginning of Predator, where every character in that is like brilliantly realized stereotype, and that's all they need to be. They don't need to be much deeper than that. And this isn't as good as that, but it's not bad, all things considered. But really, it's lacking any one of the charisma of like, an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like Dave Bautista is pretty good, but he doesn't have a lot to work with in the script. And really, my overriding feeling looking at him was like, wow, he's really big. Like you don't realize until you look at him next to normal people. It's like, God, how do you move around, Dave?
You're ridiculously big, Dave. I can't believe what's going on in the world right now. Who would have thought Dave Bautista would have become this huge film star?
Yeah, well, he released an interview today, as we're recording this on a Wednesday, saying he wants to play Ernest Hemingway. So look out for that. Like Dave, he'd have to lose like 100 pounds and probably about a foot of height to play Ernest Hemingway, who I believe was a sort of ruddy-faced, bearded man who was about 5'10". Not the appearance of Dave Bautista.
What? That's not going to happen. Like unless it'll happen in like a Seth MacFarlane comedy or something.
Oh, can you imagine?
But no, like I stick to what you're doing, Dave. He's doing well. I'm interested to see where his career goes. Like, how long can he be the action guy? You know, he's sort of. It's really interesting. Like, he's sort of taken over like the space that everyone thought John Cena was going to go into.
Yeah. It's weird actually. They've taken quite different paths because like John Cena has made a couple of really funny or he's made one really funny comedy, which was Blockers, which I really liked.
Yeah.
But he's also been the best part of some other kind of more mediocre films. I think he was in Trainwreck, which is like an Amy Schumer comedy.
I haven't seen Trainwreck.
It's not that good, but he's very funny in it. Whereas like Dave Bautista, he's done a lot of like dodgy action movies. There's one, I think it's called like Half Time, where he's like a security guy at a football stadium in the UK and terrorists attack it or something, some nonsense like that.
That sounds great.
But then he also did stuff like, you know, Blade Runner, was it 2042 I think it's called, or 2049?
Was he in that?
He was the first guy that that Ryan Gosling's character goes to rub out, and he you know, he's obviously still a very big muscly guy, but he plays the part with some genuine kind of sensitivity and pathos, which I was really surprised about. So I wonder if he's a victim of his own appearance to a certain extent, because obviously he looks like, when people look at him and he's like 260 pounds of pure muscle, and they see, you know, Drax or something like that. But I think he actually has got chops as an actor, so I'll be really interested to see what he does. And in a way, it's a shame that he's in this. Not because, again, it's not a bad movie, but he just doesn't really have anything interesting to do as a character. There's this sort of subplot with his character's estranged daughter who sort of demands to come into the zombie wasteland because she doesn't trust her dad to recognize and try and save a woman that she has that she's like friends with, which is like a sort of typical Zack Snyder piece of like just dumb writing. Like it doesn't matter whether she trusts you to recognize her or not. This girl is like 16 years old and a civilian. Clearly don't bring her into the zombie wasteland with you. You know, you're like, you can put your foot down on this one, Scott. It's fine. It's fine.
He always needs like a young girl to be traveling with in his films, you know that?
Yeah, but I mean, you could get,
he's like the perfect older guy, sort of mentor-y type.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and you know, that is like essentially the central, I guess, like character arc, so much there is one in this movie, is him trying to restore his relationship with his daughter. But it's not really much of an arc. She basically exists to get them into trouble, which is a hard thing to pull off, because sometimes, as it does in this movie, it just comes across as annoying. So I don't know, like you look at like the kids in the first Jurassic Park movie and it's like, oh, you know, they're getting into scrapes but they're adorable, like and so we let them off. Whereas in this, it's like, just don't, why is she running off on her own and like alerting all of these zombies that are going to kill the entire team? But yeah, I mean, so, you know, it's okay. It's what you kind of expect it to be. It's one of his better recent movies, I think. Not that that's saying too much. I will briefly mention that this movie was shot with these like old, like they're called like Canon rangefinder lenses, which basically like it gives this like really distinct, it's like almost like an ethereal look where the subject is in focus and everything around them is completely distorted and like it has this kind of like glow. And it's clearly a choice, an aesthetic choice that he's made. One might say it's a distracting one and not the correct one for the movie that he was making. But I respect the fact he made it. My main problem with it is, and I will say I did get used to how the movie looked by the end of it, that Tig Notaro had to be digitally edited in to replace Chris D'Elia, who was cancelled very definitively after shooting for this movie had finished, because it turned out he was a massive piece of shit. And that plus this weird lens they're using makes her scenes, the scenes where she's been digitally edited in, very obvious indeed.
Okay.
And it doesn't help that they seem to be referring to her by like very neutrally, like almost as if they've replaced her with someone who looks and sounds and acts nothing like her.
Tig Notaro is actually in Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, I've heard she's good in that.
She's all right in that. She's all right. Like most people are all right in that. But yeah, good old Tig. That's really interesting. So it's a little bit like makes me think of you fellas who's Superman's mustache.
Oh yeah, it does. It looks a lot like that. Like they're just these scenes where she's kind of like that. So most of the scenes where it's like shot and reverse shot are fine because like the character isn't like existing in the frame with a bunch of other people. There are a couple of wide shots which show like the team together, and if you look at her face, it's like, oh boy, that looks like you've just like pasted that face onto like this, like pasted it over where Crystelia's nightmarish form was. So but I mean, for all that, at least they did it, you know. I don't want to rag on it too much, because good for them for being like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit, let's get rid of him, and you know, put someone who's actually not an awful person in this movie. But yeah, so that's Army of the Dead. Oh, the one thing I will also say is, having talked about Suicide Squad recently, how do you feel, Anthony, about incredibly on-the-nose licensed music choices?
Well, it depends. Like, for the most part, I actually quite like them. Yeah.
Okay. Because
that wasn't the worst part of Suicide Squad.
No, that's true. It wasn't the worst part. It did annoy me, and it annoyed me in this when we got, and I'm gonna read them off here. In the first like 5 minutes of this movie, so that's an exaggeration, probably first half hour, we've got like soulful covers of Bad Moon Rising, This Is the End, Viva Las Vegas, and the movie ends with, you guessed it, Zombie by the Cranberries. Like, which is just like, Zombie. Fuck off, Zack Snyder. Like, all right, I know what kind of movie I just watched.
It's also hilarious to me that actually maybe, you know how maybe he was actually making the political statement then. Because the zombie by the Cranberries is based on Northern Ireland politics.
Yeah.
So maybe he is actually going with the whole, you know, don't make us wear masks thing. I don't know.
I mean, listen, I don't dislike Zack Snyder as much as a lot of other people. I'll still watch like 300 and Dawn of the Dead, or his remake of Dawn of the Dead. I think he gets a lot of stick. I think one of the criticisms of him that is fairest is that he's a really dumb director. So like, I don't think he's got it in him to have to put that kind of subtext.
He just put it in because it's zombie.
Yeah, I think it's. I do literally think it is. It's like when Ronald Reagan used "Born in the USA" as his as his election campaign song in like 1984 or whatever. Clearly not listening to the lyrics of that song. And just think, like, I tell you what, this chorus is great. Let's not worry about what's being said in the verse. So
Trump doing YMCA, but so I'm going to say that I might watch this film now. I think that it looks to me from the outside. You saying the licensed music, it looks to me like, so a few months ago we had him remaking Justice League, and now we've got him what looks like remaking Suicide Squad. To me,
yeah, it is kind of like a Suicide Squad meets Dawn of the Dead kind of vibe.
Yeah, just even like the art style they're going for with it, and like the ragtag group and the licensed music makes me think that he sort of thought that he could do a better job, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It's odd. It is odd tonally, because like it's got the Dawn of the Dead remake like has some of those kind of like. Has some of those like lighter elements, like there's that famous montage where it plays the Richard Cheese cover of People Equal Shit by Slipknot, while they're kind of learning to exist in this zombie wasteland, and they're like sniping zombies, and that was very funny at the time. This tries that, doesn't really land it, I think. And I think part of that is because these guys are, it's like if you took, like in Dawn of the Dead, all the characters are like quite well realized, they're quite well developed, like they are human characters, whereas the guys in this aren't really human. They're like this guy, they're just killing thousands of zombies. Like it feels like someone's playing with their action figures a little bit in this. Okay. And then they die when they're supposed to die, and it's all kind of pretty stupid. But you know, all that said, it's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. I do have some reservations about fully recommending it to people though.
Okay, all right, brilliant. I'm not going to spend too long on the film that I watched this week, because it's another trip down memory lane for me.
Okay.
Since Disney Plus came out last year, every now and then I'm just watching films from my childhood. I've talked about this before on the old podcast, and it is one that I've got in my mind because I've been watching the new Mighty Ducks TV series on Disney Plus, Game Changers, right? It's called Mighty Ducks Game Changers. It's a really weird show. It's not for my age group, obviously, but I am enjoying it to a certain extent, knowing what it is and what it's for. There's a few things I don't agree with in that show. First thing is that Gordon Bombay, the great coach of, as we know, who sort of started the Ducks.
Mm.
He is like a down and out who owns a ice rink but doesn't let any hockey get played there because of something that went wrong in the past.
Oh, okay.
He's fallen out of love with hockey. And he's basically like reverted back to who he was at the start of Mighty Ducks 1.
Yeah.
But he's not a successful lawyer. So he's sort of just like
I wasn't
nothing.
a successful lawyer by the end of Mighty Ducks, to be fair.
That is true, but that is true. He starts off the Mighty Ducks film, which I did watch, the first Mighty Ducks film. He starts that off as a very successful lawyer. Emilio Estevez plays Gordon Bombay, and he then, which weirdly, he was 30 years old when he made this film, by the way. That's crazy to think. I'm 30 now.
That's depressing.
It's 30 now. Maybe I should go down to the local ice rink and get together a ragtag group and take him to the state championships. But I think I'm probably the right age for it now.
Yeah, you can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah. So, okay. So basically, yeah, I like this film. I really do. It is what it is. It's a sports film. It's take little kids, put them together, give them matching jerseys, and they'll be good. Like that's the type of film it is. And I did enjoy it. I will say that I really liked the underdog story of the Ducks eventually winning and like they stealing the kid Adam Banks from the Hawks. I loved all that sort of thing. It's in stark contrast to the new TV show that's out because the Ducks are now like the Hawks, right? So I've mentioned this before.
They become the big dogs.
They're the big dogs now, which is interesting to me because then they had to make a new team, and I could just imagine the Disney execs being like, we can't have a new cooler team, like. We can't have like a new animal. Like the duck is the duck. Like, that is what we're doing here. So we can't really do that. So what are we going to do? So they called the team the Don't Bothers.
That's a very like that feels like it was written by someone in their 50s trying to encapsulate what they think like very late millennials or early Zoomers think about the world there.
The Don't Bother. Yeah. So they have the Don't Bothers, and the Don't Bothers, terrible name. It literally just says Don't Bothers on their shirt. And it's all just because obviously they don't want to overshadow the fact that the duck is the brand,
Yeah, they need to keep that Mighty Duck brand as powerful as possible.
Yeah, I imagine by the end they're going to become the Ducks or something like that. Anyway, yeah, Mighty Ducks 1. Also, apparently, the Mighty Ducks 1 was released as the name Champions. That's how I remember it.
I do not remember.
Because sometimes you used to be able to get a VHS where it was called Champions, and then other VHS would say it was called Mighty Ducks. So I think when they released the second one, D2, I think they changed the name to the Mighty Ducks retroactively. But yeah, great show. What made me want to watch it was that some of the original cast members were in the TV show that's coming out.
Is Emilio Estevez in it? That's the big question.
I told you, Emilio Estevez is the main guy. He owns a. I told you, Konrad. He owns.
I wasn't sure if they'd recast Gordon Bombay.
Okay. I didn't tell you that. I told you Gordon Bombay was in it. Yeah, you're right.
No, he's in it. I feel like Emilio Estevez. The phone's ringing off the hook for acting parts.
I know.
For him, I wasn't sure they could get him.
I'll tell you what, though. I was always looking at him and Martin Sheen and being like, come on, that's not his dad. Like, it doesn't look like his dad. And you know what? Him as an old man now, he's got the same beady eyes. I'll tell you.
Yeah, and him and Charlie Sheen are very much like, oh, okay, yeah, they are definitely your kids, Martin Sheen. Yeah. Like they got all of your DNA. I'm good. I'm glad to hear he's back. It was sad. I'm a fan of the Young Guns. All right, I'm gonna say I'm gonna put my neck on the line and say, you know what? Those Young Guns movies are stupid, but I like them, and it's a shame that Emilio Estevez's career started with it didn't start with The Breakfast Club, but 1984, he had the world at his feet. Like he was ready to take on the world, and not 8 years later he was reduced to making bad Disney movies like The Mighty Ducks.
But they're great for 12-year-olds.
I'm sure.
Let me tell you this, right? Let me tell you this before we go. This is the last thing I'll say about this, right? It's the TV show that's come out, and I'm not going to mince my words here. They've completely fucked with the lineage of the Mighty Ducks, and I'll tell you why. Kenny Wu, Kenny Wu. He was introduced into the second Mighty Ducks film, D2, as I mentioned before, He was introduced as a member. I can't remember where he's from in America, but basically, randomly, they just went and chose a team from Minneapolis. As you do,
Sure.
little 14-year-olds. They think, hey, they won the state championship in Minneapolis. Let's take them. They can represent the USA. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, as we know, all hockey clubs only have one team. It's always just like a 14-year-old team. That's it. And all nations just have a 14-year-old like national team. They don't actually have any. That's all it is.
Yeah.
There's no older groups, younger groups. It's always just the one team.
Yeah.
Right?
You're famously in the Olympics in '82, the Miracle on Ice. that was all 14-year-olds. That's why it was such a big deal, because a team of 14-year-old Americans beat the Russian men's team. And that's
yeah, exactly. And led by Coach Bombay of all men. But yeah, so what they did was Kenny Wu was introduced a character. He was like a figure skater, and he was like, because the figure skater characters from the first one for some reason didn't make the cut into the second one, so they introduced Kenny Wu.
Okay.
He was an Asian American because it's trying to bring in people from all over America because it's now the American team. So they added like a cowboy guy. They added like a rocker guy who'd beat people up. Anyway, they introduced Kenny Wu.
Okay.
And Kenny Wu never played in the original Green Ducks jersey. Right? He only played in the USA jersey, and then he also played in the white jersey with the skull and crossbone duck.
Oh, okay, the cool one.
The cool one, which eventually turned into Anaheim Mighty Ducks' actual thing, right? Like Disney created the team.
Yeah.
So basically, and then I think he wears that as well in the third one too. But anyway, he never wore the green original jersey, right? Guess what? In the Game Changers TV show, they had him wearing it, and they brought him out onto the ice with the others ones, saying it's the original Ducks. It's like, he's not the fucking original Ducks. He joined when they were already state champions. This guy's a glory hunter.
Yeah. They've retconned the whitewashing of history that we're seeing here. Real OGs remember that this Johnny come lately didn't turn up till the second movie when they were already state champions.
Yeah. Woo woo, Kenny Woo.
Outrageous.
Fuck off.
Honestly, the disrespect that they've shown. Can we talk? Let's talk for 1 second about Emilio Estevez's character name in this, because I've always
Gordon Bombay.
It's a Disney movie. I'm not going to hold its feet to the kind of critical fire too heavily because it's mainly meant for children, I think. But Gordon Bombay is a fucking wild name for Emilio Estevez's character. Like, how do they even arrive at that?
I mean, it's. Let's be honest. It's very, very memorable.
That is 100% true. Like, and it's one of those names that will never fail just to make me laugh. Whenever time anyone says it,
Bombay.
It's up there with John Matrix from the Commando movies as just it's just two words that people just jam together.
Gordon Bombay.
Unbelievable.
Bombay.
Well,
Bombay potatoes.
It's so. I mean, would you recommend the Mighty Ducks in the year of our Lord 2021 to new listeners? Or
Listen,
new viewers?
if you're looking for a gritty, hard underdog story, okay, go and watch Remember the Titans. Mighty Ducks is one to watch with
I
the kids.
knew that joke was coming. Remember the Titans is a great movie. I'll go to bat for Remember the Titans. That's
that's great. I like it too.
Remember the Titans and Coach Carter. We were absolutely spoiled in the early 2000s for those kind of movies.
Yeah. I actually started watching a new show as well with Stamos, John Stamos.
Oh, I know the name John Stamos. I don't know. Really.
Yeah, I think that's him. He's in like a new show where he's at an all-girls school He's an all-girls school basketball coach.
Okay.
And I started watching it. I don't know why Disney's making all these sports shows. I don't know. I started watching this. I watched the first 20 minutes. I was like, all right, this is just making fun of Zoomers. While most of the cast are Zoomers. I don't know why writers in Hollywood always do this, where they write scripts to fetishize their thoughts about a younger generation.
Yeah.
And then they get the younger generation to act it out for them. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like a kind of cry for validation. Like, speaking of which, actually, don't worry, we'll get back to the films in a minute, people. I saw a leak of the Powerpuff Girls pilots, the live action reboot of Powerpuff Girls. Where this is when they're all in their like 20s, and it's so clearly written by a man in his 40s who's trying to make them edgy. So they're talking about like leaking nudes, and like one of them is very graphically having sex with her girlfriend, and it's just like, what is all of who wrote this for the Powerpuff Girls? Like, God, how hard are you trying to make this edgy? So there's definitely writers like that out there. I will say, actually, talking about gritty underdog stories, I didn't mention this when I watched it, but there's quite a good Ben Affleck movie that came out last year called The Way Back, that's about him. He's like an alcoholic who becomes a high school team basketball coach. It's not quite as kind of schmaltzy and about the sport as like Remember the Titans, but worth checking out if you're into those kind of movies, because I enjoyed it.
Okay. But little news update, by the way. Apparently the Powerpuff Girls pilot is being reworked.
Yeah, well, I think that script is why the pilot didn't do very well, because it's a piece of shit. So hopefully they rework it into, a television show that's good and well written, as opposed to that which seems bad and like a child might write. Okay, so Mighty Ducks, A-OK. From one Disney property to another, I'm going to end the show with something I said I was going to watch last week and didn't get round to. It's your friend of mine. He's back again. It's Luke Skywalker, ladies and gentlemen, in Return of the Jedi from 1983. The first Star Wars movie I ever saw. And it's...
Is it?
It is, yeah. I watched Return of the Jedi, then A New Hope, then The Empire Strikes Back. And when I asked...
The true order.
Yeah, that's the true viewing order. When I asked my dad why... When I first watched this, I asked my dad, because I was an observant little so-and-so, why Return of the Jedi was called Episode 6. He said to me, "It's a joke, don't worry about it." He didn't know what he was talking about. He did not know what he was talking about. He lied to me, to my face, because he didn't know the answer.
It's a joke.
Yeah, it's just like, you could just say I don't know. Put my dad on blast for that one, because it's just ridiculous. Return of the Jedi is a movie about a young Jedi called Luke Skywalker. I'm not going to go through the story.
He's not that young anymore.
No, he's not that young. He wears black because it symbolises that his character has become more serious. And to be honest...
He's gone through Jedi puberty, because now his lightsaber's turned green.
Yes, he's lost his original lightsaber and he's constructed a new one that's green. And to be honest, Luke Skywalker wearing black is about as much character development as any of the good guys get in this movie. Which is not to say I don't like it. I still love this movie, but watching it, I couldn't help but... feel like it's almost like a greatest hits album. It's sort of like, here's all the gang. Remember these guys? They're all here, but not one of them has an arc or anything really notable to like.
I don't know. Luke Skywalker doesn't fancy his own sister anymore.
That is true. That is a significant shift in his character. Like, he was like, you know what? It's time for me to leave the incest behind, and good for him. Is all.
Yeah, and Anakin Skywalker was a good guy all along, so you could say the character development for him at the end was very
well,
good.
I mean, Darth Vader's literally the only character in this movie with an arc. Because he turns good.
I don't know. The Emperor has quite an arc on his on the throne.
On that jump shot from
jump shot down the hole.
Rainbow jump shot down the...
Which apparently he survived. Apparently.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I interpreted that as... It doesn't make sense. The next movie doesn't make... Or the Rise of... What the fuck is it called?
Skywalker.
Revenge of the Sith? What's the last one
Rise
called?
of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. There's too many Star Wars movies.
Right.
Rise of
But she's not even a Skywalker, which is great.
Well, no, it's Rey. She's a Skywalker. Remember that really cool line at the end?
Name, Skywalker.
She just decides she's Skywalker for someone.
It's like, we need to sell some toys here. We need,
Listen, she met Luke for like an afternoon, and she was like, "That guy's great. I'm gonna take his surname."
But hang on, but Leia was her actual Jedi Master.
That's true. Yeah. Like none of Rise of Skywalker makes sense. Like, why is his body all decrepit if he just got like? Are we to understand that he survived being thrown into this pit of fire, or is it just
got brought back? He should be fresh as a daisy.
Yeah. Star Wars is a good movie. All right, this has the best space battles. I'll say that. I love the space battles in this. They're by far the best in the series. But yeah, there's no real character development, and I watched again, like, so when I was talking about Star Wars, or New Hope rather, the other day, I was talking about how I was cutting between the Laserdisc release, which is the original release, none of George Lucas's fuckery from the 90s, to the Blu-ray release. I watched the Blu-ray release of this, and Hayden Christensen Force Ghost at the end still annoys me. I can't.
What a legend.
It doesn't make sense. It's Alec Guinness and Yoda, the other two. It's how they looked when they died. Why is Hayden Christensen there? Like, did no one say this to George Lucas when he made that change?
I really don't know why he did that. I'm gonna be honest with you, because even like the moment we've just seen with like the redemption of the character, it's not Hayden Christensen's face.
I annoy because like I don't, the other changes I'm just like whatever. Like I don't care about Star Wars that much, but that one it just like it does. Why change that? It doesn't matter. But with all that said, that it's got Ewoks. I like Ewoks. They're pretty cool. I love the AT-AT or AT-ST, excuse me. Battle.
Weren't Ewoks like the fans took them in a similar way to fans took Jar Jar Binks?
Yeah, I think that's my understanding of the situation, is that a lot of people saw like stormtroopers were jobbers anyway, but to see them get jobbed out to Ewoks, it was like, all right, okay, like stormtroopers have now lost all credibility as a threat when they're especially at the Empire. The Emperor's like, I've sent my finest legion down to protect this shield generator, and then they get beaten by a bunch of bears with spears.
It's like it's like when Jar Jar Binks kills a load of the apparently scary
like dragging it around.
Yeah, he's got a gun on his foot.
Yeah, stumbles around the room and accidentally kills like an entire squad of assault droids. Yeah, I don't care about stuff like that. I find that quite funny, to be honest. But that's Return of the Jedi. It's still a great movie. I still love a lot about it. I love the little fish guy who's in the Millennium Falcon with Lando. And I love my boy Green Leader in an A-wing crashing into the bridge of a Super Star Destroyer and killing what's his face? Admiral Piet, I believe his name is.
Have you seen the end of The Mandalorian?
Yes, I think so.
Season 2?
I'm pretty sure I have. I hadn't when we first started talking about it. I'm pretty sure I have now. I'm trying to remember how it ends now.
Spoiler, we're also going to be seeing more of, what do you call him? Jabba the Hutt's lair, because old Jango Fett has now taken over. He's now the Hutt.
Oh, Boba, you mean? Not Jango.
Sorry, not Jango. Jango's
Boba,
the older one. Yeah, Boba Fett. Of course, Boba Fett. Boba Fett is now the Hutt.
I mean, they're played by the same guy, to be fair. Boba and Jack.
Yeah, I know exactly. He also plays the dad in Moana.
Yeah, he does.
Which we've talked about.
Yeah, and there's something else something else I watched that had him in. But yeah, anytime you need like a New Zealand kind of like native character, he's your man.
That's what we need. That's Boba Fett.
Or Boba Fett, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad they retconned that, or didn't retcon that, as the case may be, because I always remembered him getting spat back out by the Sarlacc, and then I watched this, I was like, oh, he doesn't get spat out by the Sarlacc in this one. I think it was like an added scene.
Is that a Mandela effect?
It might be a Mandela effect thing. if by Mandela effect you mean incorrect, then
that's what I mean. Like Mandela effect is incorrect that you can find people who don't want to admit they're wrong on the internet about.
Yeah, people have remembered something incorrectly, and it's such a stupid thing. But yeah, there you go. I'll tell you what's not a Mandela effect, and that's the Return of the Jedi is a pretty good movie. So I think that is going to do it for us here. At the parish of the best movie podcast ever. I don't know why I'm talking in like church terms this week. I don't want to give the impression that we're a cult, but I don't want to seal anything off for the future. Maybe we'll become a cult.
Maybe.
That leaves us with one simple question to answer, as we always do, and that is, Anthony, what's your favourite movie this week?
I've only watched one movie and I can't think of anything else, so it's gonna have to be Remember the Titans.
Great. Well, it's a great movie. A sporting drama. Denzel Washington always delivers. Mine is Dawn of the Dead. I'm going to say the George Romero one, not the Zack Snyder one. Join us next week for another one of these. Another movie diary. An exciting journey through whatever we've been watching in the week between now and then. Thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. You can find links to their stuff down in the stuff below. And thank you to you for listening. Once again, please consider subscribing. We are the Culture Cave on YouTube, or the best movie podcast ever on podcasting apps. And get involved in the comments. Let us know what you've been watching or what you thought of the stuff that we have talked about this week. But we will catch you same time, same place next week.
Amen.